Math 1108, Test 3 Review Sheet, Section 7.1 and 7.4, Restricted Values and Solving Equations with Rational Expressions. Number 1, find the restricted values, then solve each equation. In Part A, the two restricted values are 4 and 1. You can tell from those two denominators. And when you multiply those two factors, x minus 4 and x minus 1, that equals x squared minus 5x plus 4. So that means the least common denominator is just x minus 4 times x minus 1. And you can also write it in expanded form if you want, x squared minus 5x plus 4. Okay, so what we need to do to solve this equation, multiply every term on both sides of this equation by the least common denominator. And so starting on the left-hand side, I'm going to write x squared minus 5x plus 4 over 1 multiplied by that first term, x minus 10 over x squared minus 5x plus 4. And then I'm going to multiply the next term, 6 over x minus 4, by the least common denominator in factored form, the x minus 4 times x minus 1, over 1 times 6 over x minus 4. And then on the right-hand side, also I will multiply using the least common denominator in factored form, so x minus 4 times x minus 1 over 1 times 3 over x minus 1. The reason we multiply every term on both sides by the least common denominator is so that we can clear the denominators, which is to say that we reduce every denominator to a factor of 1. In this first product, this numerator, x squared minus 5x plus 4, divided by x squared minus 5x plus 4, that equals 1. So for this term, we're just left with x minus 10. And then in the next product, in the numerator, the factor x minus 4 divided by the x minus 4 factor in the denominator, those cancel each other out, so we're just left with plus x minus 1 times 6. And then on the right-hand side, the x minus 1 from the numerator cancels with the x minus 1 from the denominator, and so we're just left with x minus 4 times 3. Okay, so we'll solve this equation. As usual, be careful with the subtractions and the negatives. So we'll start by writing x minus 10 and then plus 6 times x and then minus 6. And on the right-hand side, we'll multiply the binomial x minus 4 by 3 to get 3x minus 12. And we'll combine like terms on the left-hand side. The x plus 6x is 7x. And the minus 10 minus 6 is minus 16, and that's equal to 3x minus 12. In the next step, I'll just subtract 3x from both sides, and that will give us 4x minus 16 equals negative 12. And then add 16 to both sides, so we get 4x equals 4. And then divide both sides by 4, we get x equals 1. But remember that 1 is a restricted value. So since 1 is a restricted value, the original equation has no solution. So no solution. And that is no solution since x equals 1 is restricted. Okay, the next problem. So first identify the restricted values. The y minus 4 factor in the denominator, that means that a restricted value is 4, so we say y cannot be equal to 4. And then another binomial factor in the denominator, y plus 5, that means y cannot be equal to negative 5. And if you multiply y minus 4 times y plus 5, it's equal to this trinomial. And so the least common denominator is just y minus 4 times y plus 5. And if you want to write the least common denominator in expanded form, you can. It's y to the second plus y minus 20. Okay, and just like in part A, we're going to multiply every term on both sides by the least common denominator, either in factored form or expanded form, whichever is more convenient. When we multiply y over y minus 4 by the least common denominator, it's more convenient, in my opinion, to write the least common denominator in factored form. So y minus 4 times y plus 5 over 1 times y over y minus 4. And then we're going to subtract the next term multiplied by the least common denominator. So this time I'm going to use the expanded form, so it's minus y squared plus y minus 20 over 1 times 12y over y squared plus y minus 20. And then on the right-hand side, I'll use the factored form again of the least common denominator. So y minus 4 times y plus 5 over 1 times the right-hand side is y minus 1 over y plus 5. And once again, we will clear the denominators. So in this first product, the y minus 4 from the numerator and the y minus 4 from the denominator, they cancel each other out. So that leaves us with y plus 5 times y. In the next product, the entire trinomial factor, y squared plus y minus 20, divided by the same trinomial factor in the denominator, a number divided by itself equals 1, and we're just left with minus 12y. And then on the right-hand side, this time the y plus 5 factor from the numerator and the y plus 5 factor from the denominator, those cancel each other out, and we're just left with y minus 4 times y minus 1. So we'll just do algebra and arithmetic and to solve this equation. First, multiply y plus 5 times y to get y to the second plus 5y, and then minus 12y. On the right-hand side, we have to multiply the two binomials. Y times y is y to the second, and then minus y times 1 is minus y, and then minus 4y, and then negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4, so we add 4. We'll combine like terms on the left-hand side, and we get y to the second minus 7y. We'll combine like terms on the right-hand side and get y squared minus 5y plus 4. Notice that both sides of the equation have a y squared term, so if we subtract y squared from both sides, we're just going to be left with negative 7y equals negative 5y plus 4. Okay, and what I'll do next, I'll add 5y to both sides. Negative 7y plus 5y is negative 2y, and that will be equal to positive 4. And then finally, we just divide both sides by negative 2, And 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. This time, we get a solution that is not restricted, so that means y equals negative 2 is the solution. So this is the solution.